Martin Ødegaard left the pitch in tremendous pain yesterday, and it sent the media into a frenzy. Arsenal fans asking questions, rivals jumping in on this conversation. Of course, hit like buttons and subscribe. Not that you're liking for Ødegaard being hurt, but of course you're supporting the football terrorists as well. But the big question that I've seen posed, especially coming from Liverpool fans and a number of Manchester City fans as well, is, and this here from Josh Williams, who says, I don't want to exaggerate here, but have a look at Arsenal's fixtures. They could genuinely be out of the title race by the end of the month. Now, Arsenal fans, what do you make of this? Are you in agreement that your title race could be over by the end of September with games away from home against Tottenham and Manchester City on the horizon, the Champions League new format starting, Moreno out injured, Odegaard, fingers crossed for him, as for all football players at every club, it isn't a serious long-term injury, but it looks to be a couple of weeks at least. When you look at the picture, when you look at the footage, it looks exceedingly painful indeed what he went through. How do you see Arsenal circumventing this? And just so you can see, I mean, you see the foot there just bent in completely. Really not good. For any professional athlete to see that happen, it's definitely going to have strained the ligaments or sprained them in the leg. He'll be hoping there's no slight tear. He'll be desperately praying there is no rupture and complete tear, because that is many, many months out of the first team. But Arsenal fans, do you feel as though rivals are gleeful at the loss of Odegaard? Do you think they're over-exaggerating about you being in the title race? The first thing that stood out to me is that people always say you can't talk about title races in the first month of the season, yet suddenly Arsenal could be out of it within the first month of the season. I think that is, first of all, recognition of how good, dangerous, scary, and potent a team that Arsenal have become. They are instantly put into the title race pretty much before any meaningful football has been played. That, first of all, demonstrates where you are. Take that in. But personally, I think this is a gross over-exaggeration of the situation. Now, of course, they could lose to Tottenham, they could lose to Man City, they could lose their game, they could lose 3 on the bounce, and they could find themselves 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 points behind Man City, behind Liverpool, and that would be a huge uphill struggle. But it all depends upon their form after this period of time. The likelihood is that City will lose games and Liverpool will lose games as well. I remember Giuseppe being on the terrace saying if Arsenal win their opening 5 games, he'll think they'll go on to win the league. And although it would have been a good platform, equally I think this is grossly overstating the situation. Yes, the Premier League has changed, and that Jose really brought this in, and it's grown since then, sort of 20 years ago. Starting the season well has become more important. But no one has ever won the league in the first 4 or 5 games. It has never happened before. And I don't think it's ever going to be the case in the future as well. All teams will go through injury problems. All teams will have periods of time where they struggle and have bad patches. So even if this impacts Arsenal negatively, the idea that their season is guaranteed to be over is crazy. I think one area that it is going to now test is how good is the depth? How good is Arsenal's overarching quality? There were many an Arsenal fan this summer, and I think a lot of what they said held water, that maybe they needed to buy more in midfield, they needed another attacker, they needed more creativity. That is now going to be tested. Can Jorginho and Partey, Nwaneri, can they step up to the plate and get Arsenal over the line in these big games? Or at least give them respectable results that keeps them within touching distance of the teams at the top? If they do, I think it answers a lot of serious questions. It really, really could. In terms of updates, the Norwegian manager here, I am not going to attempt to pronounce his name because I will butcher it. So I mean that with all due respect. Says on Odegaard, he stated that it looks painful in the dressing room. We know that it was an ankle strain. Those who have played football know with luck it can turn out okay if the ligaments aren't torn. I'm not sure Arteta will call me to praise me. And of course, he won't. It's been a horrible opening part of the season for Arsenal, losing Moreno to a freak accident, Jesus being out injured, and then losing two players, especially Odegaard, such a linchpin to the Arsenal team in this opening state. Fabrizio has also shared news as well that Odegaard is on crutches, returning to England to be assessed by the Arsenal staff. And this is all about a scan. This is all about an MRI scan revealing the extent of the damage. And what Arsenal fans will be hoping for is that it is just a sprained ankle, because then a little bit of Rice, and I don't mean Declan Rice, I mean rest and ice and elevation. And what's C? What's C? I forget what that was at school now. Rice in PE. What does Rice injury... I've got to work out what this is. How do you even write it? Rest, ice. What's the rest of it? Oh, yeah, that's it. Compression elevation. I forgot. I mean, a long time ago, I did GCSE, PE, or phys ed, as some of you call it. But, yeah, that's what he needs, is rest and time. If it is a longer-standing injury, then look, it isn't good for Arsenal. But I will say this. This is natural to lose players. And this is why... Again, if you went into this season as an Arsenal fan, this squad is good enough. I don't want to see a change of direction today. I'll put that out there and I'll be honest with you. If you've gone into the season, as some Arsenal fans did, I don't think our squad is strong enough, then I understand the worry. I would say don't throw baby out with the bathwater just yet. I would say instead of being negative, I would say throw encouragement and support to your players. Ranieri, we know you can do it. Jorginho, we know you can do it. I've always been that type of person, typically speaking as best I can. Come on, stand up, be counted. I have faith in you. Keep your chin up, put your shoulders up, put your chest out and try. That has always been my way, my mantra. But they could end up being proven right here if those players are not able to step up over the next 3 to 4 weeks. But if you're someone that backed this squad, we are going to be okay. There are going to be no issues. I'd love to hear from you right now in the comment section. How do you feel about this? This is an acid test of your squad coming up. How do you think Arsenal will cope? And what is your reaction to people claiming the Arsenal season could be over before it has even really begun? We'll be discussing this more on Straight Facts this afternoon at 3:30. So make sure you're back with us here on the Football Terrace. I want to say a big thank you to everybody as well, by the way. We've hit 400,000 subscribers. I cannot tell you how humbled, happy, and just over the moon I am that so many of you subscribe, so many of you tune in, so many of you donate, so many of you keep the terrace going. And we have some amazing things in the pipeline. Again, we do this every few years. We go in new directions. We have new partnerships. And I'm so much of the last few weeks is going to make sense in the space of the next sort of, I don't know, 2 to 3 weeks. And I'm very, very excited indeed about the next chapter of the Football Terrace, which again, you, the viewers, are the absolute center of. So I want to thank you all for everything you do for us. Until next time, take care. Goodbye. God bless. And I'll see you all again soon. Peace.